Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I'm very happy to talk to the director of a very nice feature film, comedy feature film that yeah we enjoyed watching and selecting for this sixth edition of the festival. And let me just let you maybe tell us a bit about your experience and how you got to the point where you made this film, because you probably had other experiences before, and it will be very interesting to know more about them.
Well, the original script, Arthur's Whiskey, was sent in to me by a writer, and I just like the idea of these three elderly ladies, drinking this whiskey and then making themselves younger. So I thought it was a really fun idea, and I hadn't seen it in a film for quite a long time. These sort of body switching ideas, that used to get made years ago. And so I took it to a company in England called Sky, and they liked the idea, but they didn't like the script. So I was like, okay. So for about, you know what it's like. So for about 2 years, we developed the script. We changed it, and we worked out how to streamline the story. And then after 2 years, we then started to go to cast, and you can imagine we went to quite a few ladies who were available and then not available, and then in the end we just couldn't find the lead, and we thought, well, it's got to be an English actress because the movie's set in London, and then somebody said, well, why don't you try Diane Keaton? And we were like, we will never get Diane Keaton. I mean, you're dreaming, Woody Allen, Annie Hall is never going to happen.
Yeah.
But we did. We thought, well, we'll reach out, and we reached out, and we didn't hear anything for quite a long time, about a month, and we just thought, oh well, it's not going to happen, and it's because they were all reading it. All of her team, as they call it, were reading it, and then we got this wonderful call from the agent saying she's read it and she would love to do it. So we couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Then the movie happened, because with Diane Keaton, you can imagine,
Yeah.
everybody was then interested. So
Yeah. Well, I suppose having Diane Keaton on board was like the best launch ramp you could find for this movie, I suppose. But let me go back to what you said. You said at one point the Sky, this is like the channel, or it's a multi-channel company,
yeah.
didn't like the script. First of all, why is that? And secondly, because it wasn't in certain standard, maybe comedy standard. And also, why did it take you 2 years? I mean, you probably had to redo everything, or was it more of back and forth type of work with Sky, or how did you manage that? And who wrote? Who was behind the writing of all this part?
Well, there was well, okay. So the original script, it was, the three ladies initially were in wheelchairs. Okay, and
Oh, okay.
and Sky didn't like that, so that was
Yeah,
quite an easy sort of suggestion to change. But
yeah,
that was one of the big changes.
yeah,
And as you know, in the movie Arthur's Whiskey, I came up with the idea of seeing the characters younger. When they're obviously
yeah,
having drunk the whiskey. And that was never really in the original. It was more just about having the whiskey, and we didn't really see what they got up to. We just heard about it. So that had to be really embellished, which wasn't on the original. Obviously, there's this song. The idea of them going to Vegas, that was never in the original. So it was quite different.
yeah,
So
yeah,
what we did in the end, we just credited Andy Davey. He was the original conceiver of the idea. So I think on the credits we give him something like "from an idea" from Andy Davey, because really that's what it came down
yeah,
to. Really, all of his story was rewritten in the end. The way that he did it
yeah, yeah,
changed so much, and the reason why it took 2 years, you're absolutely right. It took, I don't know, maybe 2 months to do a rewrite, but then we'd have to give it to Sky, and we'd have to wait, a month for them to come back to us. Then we'd have notes. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
quite protracted, but it did. That's why it took 2 years, because it was back and forth. Yes.
Yeah, well, and sometimes it's nice to wait that long because when the script is getting richer and deeper it's certainly it's just like whiskey, yeah. It can age very well, and therefore it becomes yeah, more likable too.
It's true. I mean, originally we were going to make the film earlier. And you know what? You're absolutely right. The fact that it got delayed by another year was much better. The script became much better. And as you say, it matured. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And then at one point, once you knew you had it, it became a big challenge because now you had Diane Keaton on board. You had the other actresses, which were incredible also. And I'm talking about the uh, uh, the actors who are in the generation of Diane Keaton, but also the younger ones who were also very in fact and there was really a good connection between the younger one and the you know their older version, let's call it, even physically, even yeah. So to me, all that was very incredible casting work and certainly directing work because one has to also direct the actors to follow the path.
Yeah.
But tell me about this experience.
Well, what we suggested to the younger actors once we'd cast them is that they come to the set, and they watch how the older actors were doing the performance, and so they were making notes about how they walked and their little quick quirks, so out they put on their glasses, and obviously particularly the speech, the way that they would say things, So
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
really down to the actors. It was just myself, I think, and the casting director suggesting it. But to be fair, it was down to the three girls that were very professional and coming to the set every day and sitting in the background and just making notes and watching the actors. So that was down to them.
yeah.
It was difficult, the original casting. You're right. We were obviously put a casting call out to say we need you to look like Lulu,
Uh-huh.
who's Scottish. And we were finding it quite difficult to cast her because everybody that we were seeing was putting on a Scottish accent, whereas obviously Lulu is genuinely Scottish.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
Hannah came in, who was very, very inexperienced. I think she was about 21, very young actress, and she just was Lulu. She was like, right, come on then, let's do this, that, and we just looked at each other and we thought, oh my God, this is her. So that was the young Lulu. With Patricia, we needed somebody quite posh and quite, with a bit of stance, to her, a bit of presence. And
Yeah,
again, Esme came in and she just nailed it, so it was quite
yeah,
easy. And then with Diane Keaton, obviously we thought, well, this is going to be the hardest because everybody knows Diane Keaton, and Genevieve just came in dressed as Diane Keaton, believe it or not. She had
yeah.
on, she had some trousers, a big shirt, and she just, as she walked into the room, she did an impression of Diane, and we were like, oh my God, she's here, she's in the room. So again, it was very easy for me to cast her because she did such a great audition.
Yeah, yeah. So and then it took you how long to shoot this film and basically to wrap it up, uh, because you shot in two major locations, Vegas and the London area, I suppose, London. Uh, so what was the experience of the shooting experience?
It was very good. I mean, because we were using American actor, a Diane Keaton, we could only do a 5-day week, so that makes it a bit less
Oh,
stressful.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
If you have an American actor, then it's a 1 day off for everyone.
A few days off.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. I think they have different rules for different movies, but in our case, we could only work a 5-day week, which is great because then it means, like you say, you can have 1 day off and then the next day is the prep day really for the following week.
Yeah.
I've done movies 6 days a week, very tiring because you're
Yeah.
no time.
Yeah, well, it's usually the budget that makes you do the 6-day
Right.
week.
I know. So we did 5-day week, and it was great. It was I think it was 6 weeks in the UK and then a week in Vegas. So it was something like that.
Okay,
It
okay.
was quite a long shoot, but obviously, you can't rush these actors. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do many takes. I don't know, it depends, maybe up to 5 takes. I really don't do that many. But these people can't be rushed. I'm talking
Yeah.
actors, professionals like this.
Yeah, yeah. And how much of directing of the actors do you need to have, especially with people with experience, such as Diane Keaton, and how did you go about directing her?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, how can you direct Diane Keaton? I mean, Oscar winner. No, the way that I do it is I just let them, do what they want to do, really. So we would just, as we would block it out. So everybody would leave the studio, whatever. It would just be me, the DOP, and the first assistant director and the script supervisor. The actors would come in, and I'd just say, right, okay, let's just try the scene. So I would let them show me what they want to do. And obviously sometimes it's wrong, but it's more, at that point, it's more of a technical thing. If they're looking out the window, whatever, and I'm not going to be able to get the reverse through the window, I'll say, well, look, can you not look through that window? Can you look out the door? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
because you need to get the shots that you.
That's right. That I've invested. So, but regarding the performance, Diane wasn't. I mean, I've worked with other actors. They want to know what lens it is. They want to know how much coverage I'm doing. Diane wasn't like that. She just said, "Okay, where do you want me?" sort of thing. And she just did it, and it was fantastic. So she was so easy to work with. But I'm a very relaxed guy, and apparently I heard from her PA she enjoyed working with me because it was a nice atmosphere. I wasn't stressed. I'm like I am now. I'm no different. I'm just relaxed.
She did not compare you to Woody Allen, did she?
Well, she didn't, but she did in a backhanded way at the end, because when we finished the film, she said to me she'd love to work with me again, which was obviously a great compliment. And I later found out she's only worked with a few directors more than once, and one of them, of course, was Woody Allen. So it was an indirect compliment. But then working with Patricia Hodge and obviously the wonderful Lulu, again, they're all slightly different. I mean, Lulu is a singer, as probably everyone knows. She hasn't done that much acting recently, so she needed possibly a little bit more encouragement. But again, she was absolutely brilliant and very natural. I would just say, this is perfect. Just carry on. Patricia Hodge was quite technical, so she was more interested in about, which angle are we doing it from, and am I going to do a close-up, just so she could work out her performance, her level of energy, I suppose. We're all slightly different, but what I really liked is we had some social times before we started filming, because it was important that they became friends, because obviously in the story they've known each other for years. And Diane said a couple of times in these dinners, God, you three, you must know each other for years. And we're like, no, we've just met,
So that was nice. You allowed yourself to, in preparation and budget-wise, also to have all these nice evenings.
Right, just a couple, not many. We just had a few, but they were quite long evenings, and there was no PAs there. There was no other staff. It was literally just me, Diane, Patricia, and Lulu. And I was really just keeping quiet. I wanted them to talk, So when they then did the scenes, they were laughing about things, and it just worked very well. So
well, very nice. And one thing also I want to compliment you, because we are in front of a nice comedy, with a very good feeling type of comedy. But at the same time, some themes were coming up along the way of this movie. How people cope with the disease, how people cope with some kind of misunderstanding, big misunderstanding between the mother and the son. How people cope with maybe love at after a certain age. Can we fall in love or not? I mean, all these questions are terribly human and important to at least project oneself into them and try to maybe find his own answers. And I think you've done a great job to put a lot of people of our age into that kind of questioning, because because we tend to leave these questions maybe to younger people all the time when they're just as crucial to answer at any age.
Yes,
really.
Well, this goes back to what we were talking about in what came out in letting the script breathe, because for example, the subplot between Patricia and her son having that disconnect, and clearly there was something going on there, and he probably felt closer to his father than his mother. All that came through the development of this extra year that we had. That was never in there originally,
Okay.
So it's good you picked up on that, and quite a lot of the backstory things were all added as we tried to eke out the characters, But I wanted to make them interesting for the actors, like you're saying, these actors are in their 70s, and I didn't just want them to be linear. I wanted them to be really three-dimensional. The fact that Lulu's always regretted she never married. I mean, that's a terrible regret, isn't it? If you get to your 60s and 70s and you never married.
Exactly.
That's a big thing, So that was important. That was in there. So, and obviously Patricia with her, had an affair with a woman when she was younger. That's something she's never thought about. She was married for 40 years, all these stories.
Well, very nice to plug all these stories and in a very natural way. And obviously it's possible when you have three main characters, when you're each one has a certain course, and then we feel some kind of fulfillment at the end with the receiving all these stories, and then you see also the emotions, so many emotions coming from each story, because they're settled emotionally in a very nice way. And so congratulations for that work. It was to me, it made the comedy much richer. I mean,
yes,
I remember a comedy which was at one point not close at all, but yet a theme. One of the themes was, for example, for Cookson. If you remember that film,
great movie.
Just somebody who's old and then will find the youth again. And you did it through this special whiskey, but it could be done through many ways. But then that feeling that one may have, because everybody longs for getting younger, maybe at one point. And then when you offer that opportunity, it's always a very nice feeling that people feel, whether they're young or old. It's and you've done it, but you didn't stop there. I mean, you've done so many things around that thing that is really interesting to see your movie as a really a nice comedy, very full, rich, and emotional comedy.
We wanted to give it a happy ending to show that it doesn't matter what age you are, because obviously, that's a great moral, isn't it? If you're 60 or 70, well, you've had a great life, and don't wish to be younger. Live the age you are, and enjoy it. So that was definitely something we wanted to get across, which I believe in. It doesn't matter what age you are. We'd all like to be younger, but then I wouldn't really want to be younger, I don't think. With all the stuff we have to go through,
because it can be rough also, and then it's an experience that we once it's behind us, normally it should stay behind us.
Exactly.
Some people try to relive a younger life. but it's some kind of alienation more
Yeah.
than.
Another thing I was going to mention, when we were testing the film, we always thought that the film would appeal to, people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But we had younger people in a couple of screenings, and they really enjoyed it. And I asked them afterwards, well, why? And they said, oh, because it's so interesting to see what it's going to be like when we're older. They were imagining, being the older.
Exactly. It's it's a real science fiction. It's science fiction, but it's real.
Yeah. We didn't want it to be too fantasy, because obviously with Cocoon, there's the aliens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And under the sea and all the rest of it. And we it's a whiskey. He invents something. Somehow he does it. He explodes at the beginning, and then find it, and that's it.
Plus, the whiskey is finished. I mean, it's an experience that has an end. Unfortunately, they don't have some kind of reservoir full of whiskey for the rest of their lives.
No, they might like to, but no.
Yeah. Well, this is your second, third feature. No, how many features have you?
More than, I think I've done about 8 or 9 features. This is
wow. Bravo. This is great. So you basically work in the cinema or TV also, or?
Oh, I've only done cinema films. I never done TV. That's why they take a couple of years, as they develop the film. So I tend to do a feature film for cinema about every 2 years.
Every 2 years, and usually their films. I would call not here in Morocco. We still have this difference between what we call commercial cinema and auteur cinema. They're like the French,
Yeah,
but to me, I don't really believe in that. To me, it's a film can be just as artistic as commercially appealing, and probably that's the kind of cinema that is the best, because it is sustainable. Because when you make an auteur film that nobody sees, or just a few critics, and then makes the producer very unhappy,
In Cannes last week, I had to go down there to promote this film, and as there was a hell of a lot of art house films, and I was thinking the very same thing. I was thinking, well, who's going to see these films? They're great in Cannes, and they're getting all the awards and all the red carpet and everything, but so I would much prefer to make films like Arthur's Whiskey that will appeal to a very broad audience, bring a return to the investors, like you say, and entertain a mass audience.
Yeah, and at the same time carry nice themes, very well artistically, very well done, so that people really enjoy watching them, and obviously not being above the heads, because author films are usually trying to aim above the heads of people, and if you don't understand, then you're not smart enough, and all that kind of feeling. Well, it doesn't work with big audiences. It works only with very, very small audiences.
It's true. But so going back to your sort of thought, so my earlier films, to be fair, have been quite art house. But obviously now I've moved to doing Arthur's Whiskey, and the next film I'm hoping to do is also commercial. So I sort of learnt my trade, I suppose, with these smaller films, and I want to go more commercial.
Yeah. You don't feel like you're betraying some kind of principle, I suppose, or do you?
No, because I enjoy doing Arthur's Whiskey, and the next one is called Hooray for Hollywood, and it's also with the older actresses, about this one actress making a comeback in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
And it all changes and sort of goes wrong, and so it's very similar to Arthur's Whiskey, but I think it's a good niche, so that's what I would like to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the population is growing old, so it will be a good niche for the next 30 years. So,
Yeah. Why not?
yeah. And also, I want to congratulate you for bringing back Boy George, because that's a
Yes.
guy we didn't see for a long, long time. You know, it took me back to the 80s. You know,
I know.
watching, yeah,
Well, it's
watching him perform.
it was great. And obviously, when I asked him to do Karma Chameleon, because obviously Karma Chameleon is quite apt for what the story is about, isn't it? With
Yeah.
people changing. And I thought, oh, he'll never do it. He'll want to do his latest song, you know. And he said, yeah, sure, I'd love to do it. So he was such a nice man. I was so privileged. He agreed to do the film, and he agreed to do that song. So
Yeah, yeah. It's in fact, yeah, it was a real good match with the whole theme. You know, to have him, and it's really a nice theme, because a lot of young people maybe don't know Boy George, and they probably will discover Boy George through the film, and
or they might know the tune but not know him.
yeah, they might know the tune, but you know, not connect to the tune. There are so many tunes today that you know, yeah.
Great. And it was quite funny because so we filmed it in London, as you know, most of the film, and then this week in Vegas. And we filmed the Vegas scene in London.
Yeah, because
You know, because it was, and anyway, and George's manager said, "Oh, you better call him to see if he'll do your film." So I called Boy George, and I said, "If you don't mind me asking, where are you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm in Vegas." And I said, "This is confusing, but could you mind coming back to London to do a film set in Vegas?" You know, and it's like,
that's funny.
stay in London, in Vegas, and then he flew back to Vegas. So very funny.
Yeah, that's really funny. This
Yeah. I mean, if we had a bigger budget, we would have gone to Vegas and filmed him in Vegas, but you know, we didn't. We weren't able.
Oh, so actually, none of it. No, some scenes were in Vegas.
Oh yeah, no, we did go to Vegas, but do his show in Vegas. It was just, and also by the time we filmed, it was at the end of the shoot. He'd already finished. So anyway, the dates just didn't work. He had to come to England, then he went back to Vegas, then I think he went to Germany, and then we went to Vegas. So it was one of those puzzles.
Oh, okay, okay, that's great. Yeah, and then you said that your next film is going to be also a comedy, or
it's a comedy. It's very similar to Arthur's Whiskey.
Ah, okay, okay,
so it's a comedy. It's about this older actress. As I said, I originally wrote it for Diane Keaton because, as I explained, she wanted to be. She can't do it now. She's busy doing something else. So I can't say who it is, but it's another very famous actress who everybody.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's great to.
I shall hope the festival may show it. You know.
Yeah. Well, listen. I can only wish you the best luck with the Archer's Whiskey in, I suppose, this festival and also other festivals. If you send it to other festivals, do you have a plan to put it out in movie theaters soon?
Or... Yeah, Arthur's Whiskey has come out already in some countries.
It has come out. Okay.
Yes, so in the UK it came out, in America it came out. And those, I think, that are the main two. Everywhere else, Australia, you know, Morocco, France, Germany, it's still waiting.
That's great. Are you gonna dub it, or are you?
I think or subtitles. It'll be one or the other. Yeah.
Ah, okay, okay, that's great. Well, wish you the best luck, because you know, the more audience it gets, the better it is to comfort you in this new path, as you said, that you are now. Moving into, and hopefully with a lot of very successful other very successful films coming next years, and please remember that Rabat-Comedy is always looking for good comedies. So
well, I wanted to thank you before we end. I just wanted to thank you very much for supporting Arthur's Whiskey.
Yeah.
At your festival, and also for running a comedy film festival, because obviously I looked online and there are so few in the world.
Yeah. Well, they are very. The problem with there are about 100 and so but the problem is that they narrow their area of existence to the language where they, either they're English speaking or they're French speaking. For example, in France there is, and in Belgium there are two, but they're all only French for French films, French speaking films. Which means that you don't put in competition films from different cultures. You could have a Chinese film, you could have a German film, and you could have, and obviously in their own language. So it's a kind of it's more difficult, obviously, for the jury, because you need to have a jury also very knowledgeable in different types of humor. He needs to like that to be able, to decide. But more challenging. Yet comedy is also universal, and the best comedy films, Tootsie, for example, was a success all over the world. I mean, so which means that we need to hit at those type of and thank you for the encouragement. But we are still building on this the personality of this festival, but it's we're getting to closer to what we'd like to get at.
Great. We'll keep up the good work. And
thank you so much, Stephen, and Stephen, and I hope we stay in touch, and thank you so much for being with us today, and let's hope for the best for your film and for your career. Thank you again. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye. Take care now. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.